The family of Brianna Winston says they need answers about where she is.
Edwards is accused of zipping Winston's body up in a suitcase and jumping into his newly wedded wife's car to get rid of Winston's body in Tennessee.
On Friday, police arrested the father of Brianna Winston's child and charged him with murder. 11 Alive's Teresa Bowles has more on how police found her body.
More than a month after being reported missing, Brianna Winston's family has the answer to what happened to her.
I just don't see how it could happen to a beautiful young woman that's trying to do everything by herself.
On March 17, 2024, Brianna Winston, a lively 23-year-old mother from Georgia, disappeared under very mysterious circumstances. Brianna was known for her warm smile and care for her 4-year-old child. The young mother left home that day not knowing the fate that awaited her. Weeks later, Brianna's remains were discovered near Interstate 40 in Ripley, Tennessee. What a tragic end to a promising life. And much worse, the perpetrator was discovered to be none other than Brianna's boyfriend, a man whose actions didn't just devastate an entire family forever, but implicated his secret wife, his mother, a teenage brother, and even a so-called friend. This is the unbelievable story of Michael Edwards. Brianna Winston was a woman with big dreams and an even bigger heart. Born in 2001, she grew up in a modest Georgia household that cherished family values. Her close-knit family described her as a ray of sunshine, the type of person who lit up a room with her presence. As a devoted mother to her 4-year-old child, Brianna worked tirelessly to ensure a stable and bright future for her young family. Her relationship with Michael Edwards began with promise. He wasn't just her boyfriend, he was the father of her child. At first, Michael appeared attractive and supportive, winning over Brianna's trust and love. But as time passed, cracks began to show. She began noticing that behind the facade of a loving partner was a man harboring secrets untold. By early 2024, those secrets began to surface one after the other, and Brianna's world would crumble entirely when she discovered that Michael had been unfaithful. But the betrayal went even deeper. Michael had secretly married another woman, Brianna Phillips Edwards, just months earlier. The irony of their nearly identical names was not lost on Brianna, who confronted him with the truth. March 17, 2024, would mark the last day anyone saw Brianna alive. Driven by determination to address the betrayal, she had gone to their shared apartment in College Park, Georgia, with hopes to face Michael. Their meeting quickly went from a heated argument to violence. Investigators later revealed Michael had strangled Brianna during the confrontation, silencing her forever.
Did go to Brianna's apartment during the early morning hours of March 17th, and in an argument where she had confronted him after learning about his infidelity to her, he choked her.
The events that followed were nothing short of monstrous. Back in Georgia, Brianna's family grew increasingly alarmed when she failed to respond to their calls, texts, email, pigeon service, Pony Express, whatever. By April 1st, 2024, they visited her apartment, only to find it eerily cleaned out by the father of her child and live-in boyfriend, Michael Edwards. One of her family members said that the apartment smells very strongly of Clorox, and they also learned that she had never showed up to work on March 17th, which again is not normal for Brianna. The strong smell of bleach lingered, a chilling indicator of foul play. As days turned into weeks, their worst fears began to manifest. By April 26th, investigators issued a statement suggesting that Brianna was no longer alive, citing evidence that she was likely a victim of a crime that left her likely unresponsive in some way. This was further corroborated when a man came forward in Gates, Tennessee, offering crucial information in exchange for immunity. The anonymous tipster revealed his role in helping Michael dispose of Brianna's remains. His confession provided investigators with details of the crime, leading them to the sites where her body had been discarded. The gruesome discoveries in Tennessee confirmed what her family had dreaded all along, that Brianna had been brutally murdered.
Nearly
Nearly 2 months after Brianna Winston was last seen, Clayton County Police have cracked the case and say she was murdered by her boyfriend, Michael Edwards, after an argument about cheating. Investigators say Edwards married a woman while with Winston.
As if the murder itself wasn't horrifying enough, the investigation revealed an extensive network of accomplices. It became clear that Michael Edwards hadn't acted alone. What initially appeared to be the tragic result of a lover's quarrel soon revealed itself as a carefully orchestrated effort to cover up the crime. According to the accomplice, the events began the day after Brianna's murder. In desperation to hide the evidence, Michael reached out for help. Together, they transported Brianna's body, now stuffed into a suitcase, over 400 miles from College Park, Georgia, to Gates, Tennessee. Once in the secluded Tennessee countryside, they placed the suitcase into a barrel and did the most horrible thing ever done to a corpse. Using a burn barrel and accelerants, they set fire on her body for hours, making sure to reduce whatever was left of her remains to skeletal fragments.
Clayton County Police released some new details this afternoon in the disappearance and murder of Brianna Winston.
She hasn't been seen in nearly 2 months, and now her boyfriend faces criminal charges in that case, along with several members of his family. Let's get out to Fox 5's Tyler Fingert, who's live at Clayton County Police headquarters with what we just learned. Tyler?
Yeah, Tom, good evening to you. These are truly some disturbing details about Brianna Winston's murder. According to Clayton County Police, she was choked to death, then put into a suitcase, driven across the state line, and burned in Tennessee.
Together, the two men placed the suitcase inside of a burn barrel located behind the home. They doused it with accelerant, lit a fire, and they kept that fire burning from the early afternoon until nightfall.
The accomplices then used shovels to break down the remaining bones in an attempt to hasten up the process, but their actions didn't stop at burning the body. The pair used shovels to break down the remaining bones, further mutilating Brianna's remains in a bid to accelerate the process. Once satisfied, they divided her remains, scattering portions along Interstate 40 and dumping the rest in a cemetery behind a church in Ripley, Tennessee. What a shabby effort to erase all traces of her existence. Statements from the accomplice provided investigators the critical evidence needed to tie Michael directly to the crime. But as they pieced together the chain of events, it became evident that Michael's actions had drawn others into the fold, willing or not. One of the most shocking revelations came with the involvement of Michael's secret wife, Brianna Phillips Edwards. The authorities also learned in that interview on April 5th that Brianna had secretly married Michael on January 25th, 2024, and nobody was aware that the two were married. Investigators discovered that she had provided Michael with a car to transport the body to Tennessee. This act alone made her complicit in the crime. When questioned, Brianna initially denied any involvement, but evidence linking her to the vehicle forced her to confess. She admitted to knowing about the crime and aiding Michael in his gruesome cover-up. The web of complicity didn't end there. Michael's mother, Ebony Anderson, and his teenage brother, Keelan Wright, were also implicated. While Michael was in jail, he had made recorded phone calls instructing his family to destroy key pieces of evidence, including a pair of gloves and shoes worn during the crime.
While reviewing jail calls, we heard Michael tell Brianna Edwards Phillips to burn a pair of shoes.
Instead of reporting his actions to authorities, Ebony and Keelan followed through with his request, burning the items in an effort to eliminate any remaining traces of his involvement. Their actions left investigators both stunned and appalled. How could so many people enable such a heinous act? The depth of their involvement proved the psychological manipulation Michael had over those closest to him. Whether out of fear, loyalty, or blind trust, they had all played a role in attempting to cover up a brutal murder.
I just don't see how it could happen to a beautiful young woman that's trying to do everything by herself.
As authorities closed in on Michael and his accomplices, the focus shifted toward securing justice for Brianna. By late April, multiple arrests were made, marking the beginning of a long and complex legal battle. As the full scope of the crime came to light, the legal proceedings began to untangle the complex web of deceit, manipulation, and complicity surrounding Brianna's murder. For Brianna's grieving family, the fight for justice was just beginning, and every detail of the trial brought new heartbreak. Michael Edwards, the central figure in the case, faced an array of charges including malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, tampering with evidence, and violating a protective order stemming from a domestic violence incident in October 2023. His actions on March 17, 2024, were painted as deliberate and calculated, leaving little room for doubt about his intent. Prosecutors argued that Michael's decision to strangle Brianna was not a crime of passion but a premeditated act, evidenced by his immediate steps to cover up the murder.
It was not a crime that was committed in the heat of passion. There was malice. There was some intent there.
We loving, adorable, attentive, loved her baby to the death.
Michael cold-bloodedly killed a woman who has a 4-year-old child, his child, all because he decided that instead of breaking up with her, it was best to marry somebody else. The lady came in yelling and he didn't want to hear her mouth, so he choked her out. Literally, all he had to do was walk out the house. That was an easy way to not hear her voice. Walk out the house and don't pick up any more of her calls. That was a really simple way to not hear her voice and her yelling at him against what he did. But choking her seemed to be the right answer for him. And now she's dead, and you're going to jail for it. Surprisingly, Michael pleaded not guilty to the charges, forcing the case to go to trial. The prosecution relied heavily on the testimony of the unnamed accomplice, whose detailed account of the disposal of Brianna's body served as the backbone of their case. The immunity granted to this accomplice drew criticism from Brianna's family and the public, but prosecutors defended the decision to protect him because if they didn't give the immunity, he was not ready to talk. As the trial proceeded, additional suspects were brought to justice. Michael's secret wife, Brianna Phillips Edwards, was charged with conspiracy to commit a crime and providing false statements to police. Her decision to lend Michael the car used to transport Brianna's body made her a key accomplice in the crime.
Edwards allegedly borrowed his new wife, Brianna Phillip Edwards' car. She's facing charges for helping and lying to police.
Brianna's defense argued that she had been manipulated by Michael and had no knowledge of the true purpose of her actions. However, the evidence against her, including her recorded admission of guilt, left little room for doubt. Michael's mother, Ebony Anderson, and his 18-year-old brother, Killian Wright, faced charges of conspiracy to tamper with evidence. The recorded jail phone calls in which Michael instructed them to burn gloves and shoes implicated both in the cover-up. While the defense attempted to argue that they acted under duress, the prosecution countered that they had ample opportunity to alert authorities instead of destroying evidence. Brianna's family attended every hearing, often breaking down in tears as the gruesome events were recounted in court. Brianna's cousin, Jasmine Walker, became a vocal advocate for justice, calling for harsher penalties for those involved in the cover-up.
Clayton County Police say during the investigation, Edwards was in jail on another charge unrelated to the murder, but was caught on a jail call asking his wife, Brianna Phillips Edwards, to burn a pair of shoes and gloves. She faces several charges, including party to commission of murder. Investigators say Edwards' mom, Ebony Anderson, and his brother, Keelan Wright, are also charged for helping destroy evidence.
It turned into a family affair. He definitely looped everyone in to this crime.
Edwards now faces 6 felony charges, including malice murder. Not ready to talk right now, Winston's family says off camera that this is the closure they were waiting for.
By the end of the proceedings, Michael Edwards was convicted on all major charges, including malice murder, and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. His secret wife, Brianna, received a 15-year sentence for her role in the crime, while Ebony Anderson and Keelan Wright each received 5 years for evidence tampering. Do you think Michael Edward, his mother and brother, should have been given lighter sentences? What about the wife, Brianna Phillips? Do you think she knew from the start what Michael had done even before she gave him the car keys? Please share your thoughts in the comments. And if you find this video interesting, kindly leave a like and subscribe.